Hi everybody, in this class we're going to be making the Christmas village on our Cricut machine. This is a cute little village made totally of paper that you can put the little battery operated tea lights behind. It's a quick and easy project and it looks gorgeous on a mantle or on a hallway table, anything where you can get sort of that long lean look. So you've got lots of different textures and even shades of white paper in your kit, along with a bunch of sheets of white vellum. The vellum is to go behind your buildings, and so that you've got frosted windows. We've given you lots of sheets so that you can cut this multiple times if you like, to make it as long or short as you want. And if you have enough, you can make an extra. If you have an extra long mantle, you can just keep repeating the cuts. So totally up to you. So you'll want to have your paper and vellum handy. You're also going to want to have some scissors, you know, your basic Cricut tools kind of thing, your tape runner, and your cutting mat. I'm using the standard grip mat. You could also use a light grip mat if that's what you have handy, but I've got a green one on the go here, so I'm good with that. Let's get started in Design Space. You're going to want to call up the Cricut Village project that we gave you. You can find it under My Profile, Jennifer Tryon, in Design Space. We also emailed you a link. And you can press Customize if you want, but we've basically got it ready to go, so we can just press Make It. And it's going to automatically start sorting out the village onto mats. So these first 4 mats that are coming up that don't look like they have any windows or anything on them, this is for the vellum. So let's just start with the vellum and get that going. I'm just going to roll this up slightly because when it gets stuck on the mat, it's hard to, because it's so flimsy. So I'm going to roll it and just line up that top there and then roll it down. Now, don't really stick this down super tight because it's so thin. We don't want it ripping when it comes up. All right, I can press Continue because we've got it on the correct size mat. I'm using my Cricut Maker, but you can use whatever Cricut machine you have, as long as it's a 12-inch machine. And I'm just going to go and browse all materials. I'm going to type vellum, V-E-L-L-U-M. Okay, so we're choosing vellum. And I'm just going to say, remember my material setting. That way I don't have to choose it every single time. You're going to want to make sure you've got your fine point blade loaded into your machine. And we're ready to load the first ones. So you can go ahead and cut out the first 4 pieces of vellum. We're just going to cut out one after the next. Peel the outside away. My edge got a little ripped on the side there, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's going to be covered by the front of the paper. Now, I want to make sure this doesn't get so wound up. So I'm just going to pull the vellum away from the mat. See how tight it gets wound if you pull it too much. So we can take this to the iron if you really needed it to be flat, but let's just see how it holds up when we need it. I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to set it actually under my craft mat to just start to flatten out. But we could touch it with our iron too if it was really unruly. Okay, I'm going to roll this up again for the next one, just to lay it down. you have more than one mat, go ahead and load up 4 mats with vellum. You'll be a little more ahead of the game. This one really ripped, you can see, but I'm gonna just see if it still fits behind the building before I go ahead and cut another one. Use your spatula too as an idea. Try to keep it a little flatter. Much flatter, good. I'll still store it under my mat though, just to keep it nice and flat. All right, while those are flattening out under my craft mat, let's get our white paper. So you can see here we've got all kinds of different shades and texture of white paper. I know it's hard to see on camera because it's white on white, but you'll be able to see in person all the different textures. And that's so that we're looking at a white village from far, but the different textures and different hues of white are going to help diversify each building. It's also going to help put different colors of the snow roof and snow embellishments on different buildings. So I don't think you have to use any specific white with any specific building. I would just choose one sheet of white, then another different sheet of white, and a different sheet of white. So I'm going to start with the orange peel one, the one that feels bumpy, has like the little polka dots on it. I'm going to get that loaded on my mat. And you're going to want the texture side up. The first mat that we're cutting, it's mat number 5, and it's got like the church. And we need to now go in and change the material settings. So we're choosing cardstock, but we're going to go in and choose heavy cardstock. So I'm typing heavy cardstock. There we go. And I'm just going to star it because then it'll show up on my list, and I'm going to press remember my material settings because we're using heavy cardstock going forward. So now on this mat, we've both got the church, one of the houses, and some of the pieces that are needed to keep the Christmas village standing up. So for that, we're going to need our scoring tool. I've got a scoring wheel for this machine, but maybe you have a scoring stylus, the little pen that's a scoring tool. You can switch to that. So I'm going to load my scoring tool in my machine right now. And then it'll tell me when to load that fine point blade back in. So if you don't have the scoring tool, under Edit Tools right here, you can choose whatever scoring tool that you have. So I've got the single scoring wheel. And now I can load the mat. So if you've got more than one mat, you can load up your next sheet of paper so it's ready to go. If not, just wait for that one to be done. Load it up again. We're just going to finish cutting the remaining mats. So I'm going to put the fine point blade back in now. Okay, these take a little longer than the vellum to cut, but you can see all the nice detail. All right, I'm just going to keep going And I'll weed this one while this one is cutting. I've got all these little pieces of snow to pull out. So use some of your weeding tools to just press them down, get them out. Make sure all the little windows are popping out. We don't want this to get round in any way. We want it to stay as straight and flat as possible. There we go, another one off. That last little window. All right, as the pieces come off, just set them aside. And then these rectangular pieces here, these are what we need to help sturdy the structure in case so they fold, they've got the score lines in them. This will be to help keep the structure up if we need that. So these little rectangular pieces I designed are just to give the back some stability. So you can just, as they come off, fold them on the score lines and set those aside, and we can deal with those when we're assembling it. So just getting those snow ridges weeded away. And then just continue making your blade changes so your Cricut machine's always running while you're working on it. Snow. These little pieces of snow are no joke. I'm just using my big scraper to get rid of the extra stuff from my mat. I like just doing a big sweep up at the end. Okay, and then it's ready for the next sheet. So just keep weeding and cutting until you've gone through all of the mats. All right, last mat is in the machine. Get this one weeded. Almost there. My blade might be getting a little dull, so I'm just taking my craft knife and going along the lines there just to make sure this one comes out a little easier without tearing it. Sometimes if you just run your craft knife right along the edge, it makes it just a little bit easier to weed if it's starting to pull and look like it's not cut, rather than cut it out again. So to start assembling them, lay them out in whatever order you'd like for them to go in. You can refer back to the project shot if you want to take a look, but I would try to break up the ones on similar sheets of paper. Now, this is where these little rectangles come in, because we need a way to stick these together, and that's where they're going to come in. The other thing we can do before we start assembling them is put the snow bridges on the correct houses. So the snow has sort of cut out on all different white sheets. So you'll have different colors of white snow for different places, which is going to kind of look nice. So you can just find a little puzzle here, find the snow that matches the house. We've got the flat roof. And because of the different colors and texture, it kind of helps it stand out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and warm up my glue gun and use my glue gun for this. So we've got all kinds of tiny snow ridges also. There. There. If you have anything like glitter glue or like stickles or a glitter pen and you want to put that onto the snow, this would be a good time to do that too. So that snow with the flat top actually goes under the church steeple like that. And if every roof doesn't have snow, it's not the end of the world. I'm also going to take all the backs, all my vellum pieces. I'm just going to touch them with the hot iron at my ironing board and bring them back and also match those up with the proper houses. Okay, my pieces are much flatter now. So to avoid having too big of a jumble here, I'm going to basically pick one house at a time to complete. All right, I've got this one. So I put the plastic on my green mat just so that it's easier for you guys to see. So you can see here, what happens is the vellum goes on like this and sort of creates like the frosted windows in the background. And so it's translucent and it's just enough that your candlelight will shine through. So you can use regular glue, you can use your tape runner for this. I'm going to use the tape runner and just in between the windows, and let's make sure it's all lined up. And now you can just find the snow peaks that match this roof line. There we go, flat edge with flat edge. So this is the house that has lots of the little snowy bottoms under the windows. You can add them or not add them. Sometimes I think it looks a little too much like bottom eyelashes, so it's up to you if you want to add them or not. I kind of think it might look better without, but let's see. So I'm using the glue gun glue here. You could use white glue. I'm not using the tape runner because it's just too skinny, and I feel like we're going to have the strings everywhere. While the glue gun's heating up, I'm just going to find the back for this one. So just as long as the vellum is covering the windows, if it's not totally lined up, it's not the end of the world. This one's kind of peeking out the edge a little bit, so I'm just going to trim it off. But it really just needs to cover the windows. I'm not too worried about it matching up perfectly up top or anything like that. So if you get a little bit of it coming up, just trim it away. So just take some time and glue on all of your little bits of snow and glue the back vellum to all of the backs of the houses. And we'll meet back to do the big row assembly. Okay, so now that I've got all the vellum behind and the snow drifts on top, it's time to assemble them together. And that's what these rectangles are for, that was cut out of all the different white paper. It doesn't matter which texture you use. It's just basically for stability at the back. And just make sure that it's not too wide for your window. So for example, this one is a little wide for the church. So let's just give it a little cut so that it's just about 1/4 of an inch instead of 1/2 an inch. We just don't want that showing through the frosted glass window. So you can use your glue gun, regular like white glue, or the tape runner for this. So what I'm doing is I'm gluing with a big wall to one side and that trimmed side to the other. Make sure it's touching the bottom because you want this little reinforcement to be touching the ground. So it's going to help it stand up, but we're not going to see it. And then we're going to, onto the neighboring property, put another one. We'll put a bit of glue here, and it's going to glue to the side of that one, and then to the back, or to the back of the house, so that the two glue together, and so together like this, and then onto their separate backs. And make sure they're even at the bottom. So squeeze together. So we've got that reinforcement, and then both sides are glued to the back of their building. So it should look like that from behind, and it'll help it stand up. So like this from behind. All right, let's add the next one. You can refer back to the picture on Design Space if you want to put them in the same order, or you can just lay them out and put them in whatever order looks nice to you. Okay, just butting them together. Until you get your whole chain going. I like to end with like one of the shorter ones. Here we go, standing up. Needs to be a little skinnier on the side of the church. And one of the houses is really short, and you'll see a couple of the reinforcements are shorter. They're only about 2.5 or 3 inches. So that's for that short house. So we got another short one here. Just make sure the short one goes beside a short one because you don't want it to inadvertently be taller on the one side. Okay, let's see. I'll set it on my long green mat so you have a better chance of seeing it with white on white. So cute. This will look great on the mantle. And then in your kit, you've got your little box of tea lights. Go ahead and turn them on. And just put them behind each doorway. And don't forget some of the upstairs windows. You can set your tea lights up on something a little taller. Get some light upstairs too. It'll really be a mystery.